Not gonna lie, I had to take some time just to process my thoughts and process the disappointment. It's not coming home, and now you think to yourself, when is it ever gonna come home? Am I gonna see this within my lifetime? Before I talk about the game, I have to show some grace to the tournament winners of Euro 2024, and that's Spain, because they were the breath of fresh air in this tournament. They were the best team, and they were the most deserving winners at the Euros. I'm sorry. That is a fact. They were the best balanced team. They were the best offensive team. But most importantly, they were the bravest team. In a tournament that's been dominated by so much system play and robotic football and poor quality at times, where a lot of times when players are figuring out how to break teams down in in-game situations, all they know is cross it in the box from deep areas or force plays out wide and spam crosses. In terms of ingenuity, in terms of improvisation, in terms of individual ability, it was nothing. This was a tournament where the big name players who are on massive wages across Europe did not announce themselves, did not step up, and did not enamor us at this tournament. But it was Spain. It was Spain that brought all those memories we've had of football from when we were young, when we saw your Ronaldinhos, when you saw your Ronaldos, you know, your Iniestas, all these top class players that, you know, loved the ball. They played with balls. They made you inspired when you watched them play. I thought Spain was giving me a lot of memories of that type of football, a football that it seems like in this modern day age of, you know, billionaire investors taking over football clubs, creating so much pressure and expectation, where you see the negativity trickle down, where coaches feel like, okay, I need players now who are physical enough to maintain playing my tactics for not only 90 minutes now, but for 2 hours. This is why we see a lot of the improvisation, a lot of the skill, a lot of these moments slowly start to vanish from this game. But it was Spain who reminded us exactly what football is about. They had a range of tests. They had the most difficult games to play throughout this whole tournament to get to this final year. And every single time they passed the test, they show what they could do. And this is a Spain team that is so young. You're looking at Yamal. You're looking at Nico Williams, two of the best offensive players in this tournament, actually having a massive impact in this final. You're looking at Rodri, the best player in this tournament, one of the greats of his generation. So I have to say, well done to Spain. They were the deserved winners. Well done to Cucurella. On Twitter, I said, I'll congratulate this guy when the season starts. But you guys know on Twitter, I'm emotional, I'm reactive, it's how I am. But what an assist he played right at the end. A player that had a lot of expectations going against him. People were waiting for him to fail. Let's keep things real. People expected him to fail. Yet he steps up to not only have an incredible tournament, but to be the best fullback in this tournament, and then to have the most decisive action of this whole tournament with that incredible forward run into space and that inch perfect flipping cross across goal at the perfect weight, speed, time, first time. This was an outstanding assist that deservedly won Spain the Euros. So that's my respect to Spain. Good to them. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in future tournaments. But now let's discuss how England performed and my thoughts on our performance throughout this tournament, but most importantly, in this final. In terms of the team lineup, none of us were surprised by what we saw. Most naturally, you're going to keep the team that's confident playing together, even though a lot of us felt like, is this the most complementary team? I've always felt throughout this tournament, it seems like we shoehorn in our best individuals into a team and then hope that through their sheer character and individual brilliance, that will be enough for us to turn these small, fine margins into victories. But I feel like with the consecutive time we've played the top nation in a final, those small margins got exposed because it's not enough. Maybe it's enough against the Hollands, maybe it's enough against Denmark's and other, you know, good nations. Let's not get anything wrong about that. But against the heavy hitters, against the top nations, we've historically not been getting results against them. And a lot of that, I feel, comes down to our approach. Now, I'm not going to sit here and just shit on Gareth Southgate, because let's be a bit humble, yeah? We've seen us get into 2 European finals consecutively. We may never see this again. When's the last time we got this close this close at all. It's not been the case, and we've lost by fine margins. We weren't completely outplayed. We didn't embarrass ourselves. We didn't shame ourselves in either final. Small details like a pen shootout and a last-minute great goal by Spain was enough for us to lose these games. But then, typically, I guess our approach in this tournament is going to be the conversation point, and that is, have we learned any lessons from our previous, Euros tournament where we lost that final against Italy? Have we learned anything from our conservative approach? Because that is the key thing here. At times, are we too conservative? And I've always felt like we are, because I think that in football, especially in tournament football, where you're not working with these guys every single week, you don't have that much time, you need to find that perfect balance of using players in their best positions and simplifying the game alongside finding an effective system to play them in. Now, it's not the easiest thing to do, but sometimes I think it's not as complicated equally. And I think a lot of times there needs to be this sheer will to unity. You have to look at the team you're trying to create and build. And that's the thing. What team were England's really? We're a team that we could press sometimes. We're a team that can defend deep sometimes. We're a team that sometimes have a counter-attacking threat. We're a team that can do a lot of things, but not do them very well. There is no commitment to the approach. There is no commitment to the style. And I feel like this is why in the second half in particular, where in the first half it was cagey, it was tight, we closed the distances, we got 1v1 against Spain wingers. Not many opportunities came. We played the game that we wanted to play to really disrupt what Spain did. But in the second half, when we opened things up a bit, when we started to push men a bit further forward to press, Spain naturally took advantage of that. They could finally come to life in those vertical spaces we were getting done by. They were finally able to isolate their wingers 1v1. And some of the footballing plays, like even for the first goal that Spain scored, right from the start of the second half, that completely took us by surprise. A brilliant pass by Carvajal, perfect angle to play it onto the left foot of Lamine Yamal, who just moved in centrally to receive that ball. Then it's all these small details, but it's the quality behind the play. Lamine Yamal directs, can finally take on a man, gets past one. He then sees Williams, who was getting ready to make that run in behind against Kyle Walker. Ball gets slipped into Williams, and it's a first time finish away from Pickford. And this is world-class football. This is world-class players. This is the culture that is Spanish football. And we did have no reaction really to that. Our reaction didn't really come until finally Southgate realised, you know what, maybe I'm not going to risk using Spain right to near the end of the 90th minute. At least it took him off around the 58th minute for Ollie Watkins to come on. And then 10 minutes after that, Cole Palmer came on. And when Palmer came on, there was a bit of a lift within the team. You could see that, you could feel that. We were a bit braver, we were committing more men forwards. And the goal we scored, that equalising goal, was probably our best goal scored this tournament. For me, it just, hedges the last minute winner from Watkins against Holland. But that goal, Saka, he takes advantage of Kukurea, who can sometimes be a bit aggressive, pushing into spaces, exploits that. He's in behind, isolated 1v1. Of course, great ball into Bellingham, who's just a world-class football player. And again, when I was watching this game, I was looking at everything Bellingham did. Yes, 1 or 2 times he lost the ball in silly areas, but, he makes things happen. And I just felt like, again, he was someone that was wasted. I'll discuss that later on for my closing points of this video, yeah? But he just knew instinctively that there was going to be someone for him to use that layoff pass to. That player was Cole Palmer. And Cole Palmer, it's not even blasting it. It's just pure technique. It's pure precision. First time, hard and low, away from Simmons. Brilliant goal. And you think to yourself, we've made it 1-1. We've had momentum now for the past 5 to 7 minutes. Okay, are we going to be aggressive now? Are we going to push on right now? Are we going to try and force the second goal? And unfortunately, there was no reaction. We didn't do any of that. Instead, we reverted back to playing a cagey game. And in that sense, it felt like we were happy to take this game into extra time. And I can kind of understand why, because I see it like this realistically. Hypothetically, if this game went into extra time and got to penalties, I'm confident we win that. I'm that confident we would win a shootout against any nation in this tournament, because I think we actually you know, we have penalty shooters. But then you think to yourself, is that the right approach? Because you're playing against this opposition where they want to win the game every single chance they get. They're not playing strategically to wait till extra time. If the moment is there, they will take it. Hence why you saw Kukurea in that 89th minute, you know, taking advantage of that left flank being wide open, darting forward aggressively, playing that inch-perfect cross across goal, and the rest was history. But unfortunately, the thing that eventually cost us again is Gareth Southgate's reactive management, where changes only come once things are going against us. There is never a change to force the opposition to have to adjust towards us. It's never the case. It's always we adjust the opposition, we adjust in-game moments. And a lot of times these subs are pre-scripted, as in the players, the squad already know exactly what time, what moment they'll come on to affect the game. And I feel like maybe against top managers, can that be exploited? I think so. Because there just wasn't enough really outside of a last minute set piece where I thought Declan Rice was going to do it. Thinking that he had a free header. I think Rice is a good player, but I think to myself, in a moment like that, you have to score from there. You know, you're heading it straight at the goalkeeper. You had to head that away. You had time and space. You were unmarked. In a moment like that, when I think of the greats like your Drogbas and Co's, I think players like this score for moments like this every single time. Unfortunately, he couldn't do that. Luckily enough, the rebound falls to Mark Gurley, but then Dani Olmo is on the line. Spain are resilient. They are alert. They are anticipating what's going to go on. Goes back to Declan Rice, and he doesn't have the quality to head that back on goal. And I think when that moment passed, I think essentially that was the final over, and I knew Spain had won. But I'll think about this final, and in typical English fashion, I'm going to think about all these what-if moments. You know, what if there was a bravery, if there an assertive energy from Gareth Southgate? Personally, I think it's kind of criminal, and it's not just a hindsight thing, but it's kind of criminal that a Cole Palmer was not starting in this team from the start of this entire tournament ahead of Foden. I thought Foden was pretty disappointing, hasn't announced himself, and all this, you know, little criticisms he gets that he's protected by a system and a familiarity of, you know, playing with Man City players for years, working under Pep Guardiola. Once he's outside that matrix in a sense, what's he really about? And there was just nothing game-changing about him whatsoever, outside of maybe 1 or 2 or 3 nice touches against Holland. But in a tournament like this, where he's had a crucial role, where he was on the left, but then most importantly, got that central spot in the team. I want to see more from Phil Foden. He couldn't get that. But you know what? I'm even going to be a bit more graceful now towards him, because when you have a Phil Foden in the 10 position, someone like this, he wants to find an outlet to play balls to. If he's just like receiving the half turn, he's running towards goal, he needs someone he can slip a pass into in behind. And when you have Harry Kane, where his entire game is more of a deep lying forward, where he withdraws off oppositions, you know, he withdraws into the spaces, he makes those delayed runs. When he is your outlet striker, that will limit a lot of the creative freedom and expression players can show. And throughout this tournament, I've tweeted this, I said before the tournament, I said it on Son of Chelsea's channel. If I'm England, the brave decision I'm making is not starting Harry Kane. And it's not because he's a bad player or he's overrated. It's just, unfortunately, he's the world-class player this national team doesn't really need. Because with how we play, we need an outlet striker. We need someone we can play more simple football to. We aren't that possession team that's playing with high lines, that has wingers holding the width, that can really take advantage of Kane being that focal point in the team. We could have done that, but we'll never be that brave to ever play that type of football. So he was kind of wasted throughout this whole tournament. The goals he scored came from his teammates creating those moments for him, compared to Harry Kane taking anything off the cuff. And in games like this, what can he really do? He didn't really test any opposition defenses throughout the tournament. And I always felt like you're giving teams a massive advantage. Number one, they're pretty confident, they're playing with no fear. And number two, in different game states like pressing or in counter-attack situations, we can't do that effectively because Harry Kane is just not that forward. I thought that the brave decision would have been to either start Watkins or Tony throughout this entire tournament. And I feel like that goal we saw against Holland, where Cole Palmer comes on, plays that ridiculous pass straight into the right foot of Watkins before he takes a shot. That can only come from a Watkins who's making that diagonal run into space. Kane would not be in that area. Our game just can't be like that with Harry Kane. And I felt like Gareth Southgate, I understand you're thinking, yes, he's one of the top strikers in the world. But then you think to yourself, in tournament football, where's one-off games and opportunities, not league games, you must make the brave decision sometimes and think what is better for the team. And I felt like if it was a Watkins or Tony, at least you're causing more danger to that back line. At least you're stretching Spain's back line. And most importantly, the team has an outlet. How many times did we see players want to hit it long? That's the English way. If you're under pressure, if you want to speed things up, you want to play a long pass, you want to play direct to find someone, and we had no outlet. Watkins only had like 25-30 minutes. Torre, yet again, underused, got like 2-3 minutes in this game. I think to myself, if we had a proper outlet striker, if Cole Palmer started these games, because he made things happen for us every single time he played, and he got the equalising goal in the final, and maybe at times too, you think about Gordon getting more influence to come on to stretch opposition teams, to create that width, to be an outlet for diagonals in behinds. If that was the case, maybe even consider using Alexander-Arnold as a right back, because finally his world-class strong-range passes could actually connect to a Watkins and connect to a Gordon down the opposite sides. I felt like there was enough in this England team for us to decide how we want us to be. If we wanted to be a possession team, we could have done that with your Ezes, your Fodens, and your Palmers playing together. But we were never going to be that team. And if we were going to be this counter-attacking team that can keep our shape, that can play long and behinds, that can be aggressive, I think you needed to use a different profile of player in this team. And I think our two best players, Foden and Kane, were pretty ineffective throughout, because the football they were asked to play did not complement any of their strengths. I think that is the reality. I'd even argue, and you guys will disagree, I would have even used Conor Gallagher in a game like this just for energy and aggressiveness and pressing, because he's a very good player when it comes to winning possession back, and he's the type of guy that will win a tackle and release it to kickstart a counter-attack. And then if you have pace around you, if you have a Palmer who will play that forward pass every single time, 9 times out of 10, maybe you're an England team that can create possibilities. And with possibilities comes opportunities to lead games. And then Southgate's conservative nature could have really shined at moments where we could take the lead. And I think it was pretty funny that throughout most of this tournament, we were never in a situation where we were in control of any games. We were coming back into games. We were coming back from behind throughout the whole tournament. And again, I think like this is why lessons were never, ever really learned. So my friends, obviously, credit to England again for getting to another final. Listen, I'm not, the tactics weren't perfect, but at least the character, the moments we saw, you know, the way that it kind of brought the nation together a little bit, as football typically does. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say our players were awful, they were useless, they embarrassed us. No, they didn't. But I just think in the end, we lost to bravery. And the bravest team in this tournament, rightfully and deservedly won this. So my friends, they're my thoughts on tonight's final. Share your thoughts and opinions. And on that note, I'm the EFC, this is BlueLionsTV. See you all tomorrow. Cool.